sheep smarts story from a chapter about other siblings, and this one is about his brother Bard. The younger twin, born when I was just a few weeks short of my 10th birthday, Bard was different from his older twin brother Art. Art was quiet and shy, but Bard enjoyed talking. The thought of having a large group of people all staring intently at one person, hanging on every word spoken, this is a terrifying thought for some people, such as Art. However, this is an inspiring dream for some more outgoing people in the performing arts to feel that one can touch so many lives at once, like my brother Bard. Bard's favorite performing craft was telling stories. He loved having people sitting on the edge of their seats as he told and retold stories, as Tello is doing today. As he told and retold stories. He was probably my most popular sibling since he had friends in just about every profession or social circle. Everyone loved talking with him and hearing his interesting and funny spins on any story that he could tell them, since he had a great sense of humor. He could also make announcements and help spread news, since everyone eventually talked to him at some point during the day. When he was 8, he worked with me in the pasture lands. He would occasionally visit me while I was working in the pasture in other years after that, since his work setting varied. He was mostly identified with the artisan community, but he would help the shepherd's community and the farmer's community. During one afternoon, while he was 8 and I was 18, I was sitting on a thick, fallen tree branch watching my herd of sheep grazing or resting in the pasture. One young ewe lamb named Brooke, with fluffy grayish and cream colored wool, was sitting nearby. All 4 of her legs were tucked under her and practically invisible. There was also a fluffy cloud that floated by the sun, providing a brief moment of shade. The coloring of the cloud, as well as its shape, kind of looked like Brooke at the moment. I chuckled to myself as I glanced from the cloud to Brooke and thought about that. It was just one of the ways Father God brings joy into my everyday life. May was with the kids about 30 running steps away from me. Hey, Abel, Bard greeted me as he stopped by to get a water gourd. I smiled at him. Hey, Bard. I looked at the bag of gourds as he sorted through them. I think the ones with water in them are closer to the shady part of the tree. So they stay cooler. Oh, thanks. He smiled as he picked one. He then noticed Brooke sitting there and started chuckling. I have a joke for you, Abel. I blinked, eagerly turning to him. You do? Please share it. Bard chuckled again. All right. What do you call a sheep with no legs? I could kind of see him looking over at Brooke, as though her position inspired this riddle. Well, I normally call her Brooke. Bard shook his head and giggled. Nope. Now he seemed to be looking slightly upwards. I followed his gaze again. Would you call a sheep with no legs a cloud? I replied, remembering the overhead cloud that I thought looked like Brooke. He still giggled and shook his head. Nope. So I shrugged. Well, What would you call a sheep with no legs? Bard answered, Does it matter? A sheep with no legs won't wander off or come when you call them anyway. At this, I doubled over and laughed. Now that's funny. Brooke even seemed to turn her head to acknowledge us, flicking her ears and bleating contentedly. Hi, Tello. Flicking her ears and bleating contentedly. I motioned to her. See, even Brooke thinks it's a funny joke. Bard winked at me. Are you sure? She's not telling me that joke was bad. He even imitated a bleating sheep as we shared another laugh. I ruffled his hair and patted his back. Oh, Bard, your sense of humor just makes my day. Thank you for sharing that joke with me. Maybe this riddle wouldn't otherwise be that funny, but somehow the way Bard told it was most of the reason that made it funny to me at the time. Okay, Maggie.